On this episode of AV Week, we talk about licensing for drones, getting young people involved in AV, plus what it takes to be Integrator of the Year. All that and more, next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
AV Week is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like Extron. This is AV Week, episode 226, recorded Friday, December 18th, 2015. Mom's Gotta Pay.
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing. Scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tom Albright. I am your host. With us this week, my buddy, my pal, the left side of my brain, Mr. George C. Tucker. How are you, sir?
C?
It's George C. Scott, George C. Tucker.
Am I supposed to,
I don't know.
Yes, wear a pith helmet. Okay.
How are you?
I own a pith helmet, see?
I'm
just
surprised.
dandy.
All right. Also with us, the only one of us three who has seen The Force Awakens, Star Wars. He's not going to give any spoilers. He did say it was good, though. Craig MacCormack from Commercial Integrator. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. So good. Yes. Worth the $10.
Very good, and I paid a little more than $10, but definitely worth it, and I'll definitely see it again.
All right. Actually, yeah, I shouldn't say 10. I think it's like 11 or 12 now in the Midwest. So, all right, here we go, kids. First and foremost, we are going to talk about drones, and I apologize beforehand. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about drones. And George, I think, was on last time we did this. Mm-hmm. And I asked the question, are drones AV? And we had a lot of feedback from that saying yes. We had some people saying no as well. So it is in that spirit that I bring you this story. And it is the fact that, hang on to your hats, kids, the FAA is getting involved. If you are a business, don't do anything yet, basically is the bottom line of this CNET story. If you are a individual and it is under, I believe, 5 pounds. I'm going to double check here. I'm sorry, it is under half a pound. You don't have to register. So if you are between half a pound and 55 pounds, it's going to cost you $5 to register. George, is this a good thing? I guess is the best way to start this conversation. Should the FAA start getting involved in these smaller form hobbyist aircraft, and as whether it's for a business standpoint or from a hobbyist standpoint?
I think you enter that situation in which, should the government be involved in anything in the mass market, right? We can see your stuff on screen. Thank you. Anything on the mass market regulated is a problem, right?
Yeah.
People get upset whether it's firearms or drones or anything else in between. Unfortunately, I think there is a desperate need for it on a sort of larger scale. There's been too many incidences when we've read about and heard about drones flying within a couple of thousand feet of commercial airlines. And Lord knows we've had enough trouble with birds getting caught in engines or cracking the windscreens of these jetliners. This cannot be a good thing. And combine that with that lovely individual who combined a 9mm that he could fire remotely from the drone. If you've seen this video on YouTube,
yeah,
you're dealing with some serious stuff. I mean, look, combine the drones with the guys who are into rocketry, and then you put rocketry, and you have people who have technical know-how. I mean, this is the dark side of the maker movement, right? The people who are really into stuff because they're into it, just like, say, hackers were in the early days. And then you get the side that says, that's cool, but now I can do something really impactful. And the maliciousness has to be protected against. Like anything, though, will the registration really stop the person who wants to do it? No, because you can get a car and drive it unlicensed, and they have to catch you when you hit somebody or get into an accident, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's at least a start to say, hey, we got to find a way to make sure that we can start to track some of these things.
All right, Craig, from the business standpoint, Infocom had a drone section. ISC 2016 will have a drone section. Ostensibly, most likely there will be a drone section at Infocom next year. How quickly does the government need to move? Because we mentioned in this story on CNET, there's not a business license yet, right? So if you read kind of between the lines, at least I'm reading between the lines like this. If you are a business, that means you can't get a license, therefore you can't legally operate it yet. So how quickly does the FAA need to move for integrators to start, operating these things legally?
I think there's starting to be some demand for drones, but I don't think it's an immediate need. I don't think it's something that has to happen, this week, this month, 3 months from now, anything like that. But I'm not surprised to see the government involved in it. In addition to being a way to make some money, it's also a way to kind of cover themselves if there is some sort of incident. They can track the person that supposedly owned the drones. It's similar to owning a gun or anything like that. It's just a method of record keeping. But like George had said about being unlicensed and driving a car, there are going to be people that aren't going to register their drones, and they'll probably be the ones that are the biggest problems or menaces to the issue. Basically it takes one person to screw up a good thing. So that's kind of where this feels like it's headed for me. I think most people will end up doing what they're supposed to do and registering if they have to register, but I can certainly see a scenario where we hear about some sort of situation where somebody did something untoward with an unregistered drone. All
right. The only thing is and they did mention the fact that you have to have registration and basically a license on your actual drone. So it's very reminiscent to the license number you have to have on airplanes and stuff like that. So I kind of get that.
Did you see the Japanese, or was it the Thai police, have a drone that actually has a netting underneath it to capture
really
drones that are not allowed in certain areas? Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that they were going to capture other criminals.
No.
A la superhero.
Very Batman.
Very Batman.
But no. They're actually chase drones to go and net any kind of drone that they think is not in the area, and they go after it.
Use a drone to catch a drone.
It's a job to have, right?
Yeah.
I want that job.
Yeah. Well, and the government, the military, when you have drone pilots, at least they used to. It was 9 months ago. I read this story where you still actually you suit up in a flight suit to operate the drone, because they don't want them to forget the fact that you're still operating a piece of flying equipment. It's still a deadly machine when it comes to the military part. They still wear the flight jackets and everything, even though they they go home after their different missions for the day. So
they're saying no flip flops and shorts.
No flip flops and pina coladas and yeah. All right.
Very Hunter S. Thompson. What'd you do today? Well, I wiped out a village of Iceland.
All right. Next story up. We're going to talk with Mr. MacCormack here, and let's just say that this story caused a little bit of controversy. Not a lot, but there was a little bit of controversy. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the fact that Yorktel was named Commercial Integrator's 2015 Integrator of the Year. So, Craig, first of all, take me through the steps of what it takes to become Integrator of the Year first.
Well, it starts with myself and Tom LeBlanc, and we kind of throughout the year we'll talk about companies that we think might make good selections for Integrator of the Year, and I think we've done a pretty good job in picking them over. Yorktel is the fifth for our this is now the end of our fifth year for Commercial Integrator. We do kind of seek some advice outside, but generally we try to kind of make our selection within the confines of our office. And for the case with Yorktel, we did kind of screening interviews with a handful of other integrators, and kind of talk to them about their strengths and kind of the things that they bring in certain areas. And the thing that stood out when it comes to Yorktel is the managed services component, the about 50% of their revenue comes from managed services. So certainly they're ahead of the curve compared to a lot of other integrators in terms of that. And that's it's something that a lot of integrators have talked about. We're strong in managed services, but Yorktel is ahead of pretty much everybody, and I guess everybody in the integration business when it comes to that. So that's kind of how we came down to them. Another area that we were kind of focused on this year was content creation, video content creation, and that's something that Yorktel is working on. They're getting a little stronger in that and focusing some on that. Going forward. Certainly they're much stronger in managed services than in content creation, but they do have those two components, and that's kind of how we ended up with them as our integrator of the year. I know I've heard from some people that were kind of wondering about the selection, but for the most part it's been positive in terms of their selection, and I know that they were excited about it as well. So.
Well, and like I said, I have no problem with it. I've never done work with Yorktel, but I'm sure they're a good company. Chanan, from your standpoint, from a manufacturer standpoint, how do you help a integrator not just become integrator of the year? We're got Craig on, and we're talking about their integrator of the year. But how do you help integrators become successful? Whatever that success means, whether it means landing big contracts, obviously making money year over year. How does a manufacturer help their clients become more successful?
Excellent question. I think similar to what we were talking before from why they selected Yorktel because of the massive growth in management services. One of the areas of we've seen growth on our end has been to not from giving away professional services for free, but from actually, mandating a lot of our customers to get these so that when they are on the field, they don't have that ball dropping and say, "Oh crap, what happened here? Who did this? How did that happen?" So one of the things that we're doing is actually a two-pronged approach, which is a little unique from a manufacturer standpoint, that I think we're ahead of the curve to avoid it, and from seeing a real nice case study, is to constantly be offering training for free. And certifications don't always equal training. To a large extent, as we all know, it's a piece of paper. And one of the things that we want to make sure we do is that when someone does get training, they're actually trained not just the integrator, but the subcontractor, because everybody knows integrators are using subcontractors today. And even the local union shop that's involved, we involve all those components on a training level. So we look at it, like I said, as a two-prong approach. One is that we offer them free training, whether that be in our showroom in New York City or via web or on the phone or even FaceTime that we've done many times. But we actually offer from Prime View Manufacturing Professional Services, our engineers on site helping the integrator along the way. And whether that be sending somebody from our headquarters in Israel on the R&D side or someone from New York City, and we send them globally to projects in Africa, to projects right now ongoing in Venezuela, Caracas, California, Canada, anywhere in the world.
All right, George, Chanan makes a good point of not giving away services, right? A very good friend of mine who works for a software company is always chiding his clients who are also integrators for giving away services, giving away things that are valuable. Whether it's live staging events when you were working for a control company, you dealt with integrators. How do we get out of that cycle, I guess? Because there are integrators who do design build, right? And they give away the design. That's part of their added value. But then you have an entirely different segment of the industry. That's what they do. You have consultants. Consultants make money making designs, right? Consultants, that's what they do. So how do we, I guess, how do we get out of this cycle of giving away, to Hanan's point, giving away there's still value there?
It's a tough proposition and a tough question. I mean, for some companies, that's your lead-in.
Yeah.
We've often spoken of the virus of free. It's a virus. It starts to spread, and it has spread widely. How many of us really pay for our own music anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, you take with that certain assumptions that you will get and what you won't get. And from the client end, I don't think they always know that they're making that decision to not get something, a vetting of the process, a QCing and a configuration, as it were, let's say from my world, of that system before it leaves. Those are the kind of things that you need to worry about. Now, we do that, and a lot of companies will do that as well, but you need to get paid for what you do, and we need to start to reinstill in our clientele that aspect of it, that people are being paid to do this, and people are doing it not because we want to charge you or bilk you. It's not a consumable that we're just adding on. You didn't use 1,000 rolls of gaff tape. It's somebody works hard to make sure this works right from the get-go. It's a hard one to do. If I'm a small company and there's a competitor and I know that I can give away that design for free, but then make that up on the back end with services and managed services, absolutely, I probably would do it. But I know I'd be in a trap. I'm never going to be able to charge for that, at least within that circle of clientele. I mean, it's a tough one. What Yorktel did was always grow. And I think what they did right was, hey, we're going to be doing this part of it, and maybe this is an add-on feature and you charge very little for it, but you charge something. That way, sort of when you get the wiggle room to charge more because there's more involved, you have it. Think of the Fed. Fed just put the points up, what, 0.25% or something? 25 points. And they ostensibly did that. Why? So they had some wiggle room in case they needed to bring it down again.
What about the guys who wanted to refi just right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, Dave, that's finance. You take your chances. The world's going to change in a dime sometimes. But again, the point is charge something. It's one of the arguments I had very quickly with some of my family. I need you to do something. All right, this is more than just looking at your computer, Mom. This is what it costs.
You charge your mom?
I know, that's kind of low.
Well, no. Listen to me, though.
Okay.
It was only $1,000.
Wait. This is based on the ethics that my mother taught me. If you're going to do something like that, and it's, say, rewiring part of the house, it's part of the deal. It's like you're going to do it as a business, because then I'm not going to shirk you. I'm not going to make you wait 6 months. And then I'm not charging her thousands of dollars, and I don't. Actually, the truth is I never charged my mother, but I've charged other family members.
Other family members I get, but it's your mother, George.
I know, George. If I can,
why give it away for free?
If I can interject for a quick second.
Yes.
Something that I noticed is that a lot of times a consultant will specify something, or design build integrator will design a system, and what I recently got my team doing, I would say within the last 6 months, because of, I guess you could say, the what storm that happens afterwards, we actually started reviewing drawings as a manufacturer of every system design that our system integrators or consultants will allow us to see prior to really getting an order. And we actually do this service for free for one reason. Because of the world of interoperability for many manufacturers, as you know about, call it HDBaseT, call it SDI, whatever the connectivity interface may be, we realized if we didn't do this on site, there's going to be serious problems. We've seen them before. So I guess certain services have to be free because otherwise people won't pay for them.
Well, and Hanan, let me play the devil's advocate for that one.
Sure.
Because there are a couple manufacturers. When I was in education, we would design our own systems, right? So, and that was great, except for they would stop the purchasing process until they had vetted our designs, and it wasn't just us, right? They did this with a couple they did this with 95% probably of their integrators. And I understand your perspective and your point of view, trying to make sure that the process goes right, that your product is seen in a positive light. However, doesn't that create a choke point then, where you guys are kind of you guys are a stopping point until you get through the process, unless you do it differently, until you get through the vetting process of the design, you don't process the order, therefore it doesn't go out. And if you're on a time crunch, how do you guys manage that?
So let me clarify. Excellent point. So if I'm working with a consultant, and for argument's sake, they say, I'm specifying PrimeView's video walls because they have HDBaseT natively embedded and it's going to save me money or whatever the occasion is. So I will ask them in a very important question: what are you planning connecting which extender do you plan on connecting it? Is it Crestron? Is it AMX? We've had experiences where certain things obviously work better than others. And the first thing that I'm going to ask is, which one is it? And if I haven't already tested, can you introduce me to that other manufacturer so I could test up in my R&D, location, or my showroom, or on a production site, because otherwise I have no guarantees it'll work. I don't want to say it's going to work just because everyone says it should work, just because the protocol says it's supposed to work.
And that's valid, absolutely. So that's where some of the stopping gap may happen, and that's, again, I get it from a manufacturer standpoint, because here's the thing, guys. We've talked about this, regardless of which control system it is. The touch panel is the client facing part, right? And if they're hitting the button, then the entire system doesn't work, and the entire system is crap, quote unquote. And the only thing they're going to see is AMX or Extron or Crestron, and so AMX sucks, Crestron sucks, Extron sucks, whichever is on that touch panel.
You said it, I didn't say it.
No, I'm just saying, and George can back me up on this. That's what my buddy Kevin Iselli is forever, who works for Crestron. They'll call up technical support and they'll say this Crestron system sucks, because that is the component that they see. Mm-hmm. It's not because, some video cables got unplugged, and it may very well be, an old auto patch video switcher, for crying out loud. Who knows? But it's that front facing. So I get the fact that manufacturers need to make sure that their system is going to work in an integrated system like that, right? Unless you're buying everything from brand X, Y, or Z, you've got to make sure that it's going to interconnect with everybody, and it's going to play well with those different parts and pieces. I get that. The other part of that, though, is you've got clients who are saying, "Oh, hey, I found $10,000 in our budget. Can you have this done in 2 weeks?" So you've got these two worlds kind of fighting each other.
Add a zero, and yes.
Well, all right.
Exactly.
I wanted to make one more point about Yorktel. Just kind of talking about the managed services component here. What they told me is that they don't take a job unless there is a managed services component. They don't take a job that's just an integration job. They don't want to be one-off companies. And just have these one-off installations and walk away from the client. They want to stick with these clients and build long-term relationships with them. And I think that's a good model to follow. I mean, there are definitely integrators that do that with some of their clients, but Yorktel told me that they do that with everybody. If there's not a managed services component, they're not going to bid on the job.
Wow.
It's interesting, if I may interject, because that is exactly what many manufacturers have been leading towards, because that is a managed service that is recurring revenue. And if you read the article as well, like you said, they do content creation because it's end to end. They're talking about digital signage. They're not just selling the hardware, which is a one-off sale.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe you maintain it twice a year, but other than that, there's content creation, there's content distribution, there's management of that stuff, which I think is amazing that they've always looked at that and said, well, let's try it. Here's a small division. Hey, that division grew. Great.
Yep.
What was it? He said it grew in despite of itself.
Yeah, something like that. It's starting to grow a little bit more, and he sounds like he was saying that's probably an area that's going to grow quite a bit in 2016 and beyond, because it's becoming a more important thing for a lot of companies to have that that video content.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got one more story here, and then we're going to let Craig talk about a couple more that they're going to have. But I wanted to get this on the roundtable portion, I guess, of the show, and that's NSCA's new initiative. And it's Tom LeBlanc, the what is his official title now? Editor
Editor-in-Chief.
Editor-in-Chief.
Grand
Poobah of both Commercial Integrator as Tech Decisions. It's a sneak peek. Now, it's a sneak peek, but the fact that he posted it means we can talk about it. Of NSCA's new plan to reach high school students. It's called Ignite. And it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting initiative. The fact that it has two of my favorite 40 under 40 people is also a plus. One is our good friend and pal Kelly Perkins, who's also the one of the hosts of our AV Social, and our buddy Mike Shen from IMS. So it's I'm very excited about this. Mr. Tucker, when it comes to recruiting people and getting the millennials and what on earth the next generation that is going to be called involved and inspired by AV. How do we do that? How do we get into the high schools and say, hey, look, here's a cool industry that you can be a part of, that you can grow with, that you can help change, actually, because we are in kind of a transitional period. How do we get in the high schools and get those kids?
I think just like the age-old question about math, how do I make it applicable to my life? And for a lot of these people and the kids, I think it's about, you know how to use an iPad, you know how to use this, you can edit videos on YouTube, that's great. But what if you really want to make something like a music video? Maybe you're in a band or you rap or something. Now you take it to them and say, here's how you're going to do it. Here, let's teach you and take you through the entire process, right? With integration, let's make it better for the school and better for your classroom. How do we do that? Let's do it. And it's a class to make that classroom or that auditorium work. And now it becomes real world, and the applied skills are not necessarily as high or steep a learning curve. And they see what the end results are. It's sort of like making a clay pot. Everybody loves making those clay pots and those little shops that you do, even if you don't think you do. There's a satisfaction of, my God, there it is, it's real. I did it. And I think that's a lot of it. As the article says, it has to be content. You can't just give a lecture. Well, I think that's always been the truth. We just accepted it for too long. But they really want to see that visceral content to hands-on very quickly. Yeah. And that, I believe, would be part of the key. Look at the maker movement.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Chanan, from your perspective, both as a manufacturer, I was also somebody that lives and works and breathes in New York, a place with a lot of people that you could connect to this industry. How do we get a hold of the young people to get them involved in this industry?
When I was being interviewed, I'll never forget, prior to joining PrimeView, I had zero experience in the Pro AV. To be honest with you, I didn't even know what AV stands for at the time. And, my CEO said, after he said, obviously, what are you looking for? What are you interested in PrimeView? I said, I don't really know anything about the tech space. What's so interesting about it? And one of the things my CEO and founder said to me, which at the time is still the case, really, when I think back, is that it's always changing. It's always evolving. And that was exciting personally to me at the age of 27, 28 now when I think back. That's what attracted me, something that is obviously something that's always going to be different, always changing. And when I think back to one of my first real broadcast, rollouts were with actually World Stage, ironically, it was ESPN Sports Center. Mm-hmm. And we built out one of the most beautiful studios together in the world, still to date. And, when my friends asked me, what do I do? I said, do you ever watch TV? And they say, well, yeah, a little bit. I said, you ever watch Sports Center? I said, well, I get involved in projects like that. They're like, whoa, I want to be more involved. What is this? And I explained to them, this is what Pro AV is. This is what AV is really doing for the world. This is what commercial integration is doing. Really? That's what they're doing? So I guess that's part of the way I express to millennials about their world, what the industry is and show how exciting it really could be and how it's always evolving. But long term, I think the way that you really recruit and attract is by offering, just like any other industry, is continual training in the field. And that's how you retain employees. And I think that's also how you attract people to a field and saying, we will train you, not just from a manufacturer's point, but from teaching people how the industry works continuously.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mr. MacCormack, last word on this article. How do we get the kids more involved?
Yeah, I think there was a quote in that article from Kelly Perkins about how NSCA realized there was nobody young on the board.
There is that, yes.
Well, and I actually think that's a key part of getting kids interested in it. I think if a 50-year-old, if the CEO of a company, an AV company, walks into their classroom, all decked out in his tie and everything, half those kids are going to tune them out. Honestly, to be totally honest, they're not going. I mean, I think it resonates a lot more. If you send in, whether it's Kelly or somebody who's not that much older than them that can talk about, here's the cool things. I just did. What Chanan was talking about with Sports Center and that studio. Here's a cool project I just worked on, and it could be something that you work on. I think that's actually a key element of this, and it's good to see that NSCA is kind of recognizing that and acknowledging that in some ways it takes young people to reach young people, which I think that's often been lost in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mr. MacCormack, you've got a couple of those stories you wanted to talk about that you guys are talking about over at the Commercial Integrator World.
Absolutely. I did want to give a plug for another Yorktel plug. They're going to be participating in our annual State of the Industry webinar, which is January 20th. They'll be joined by Tom LeBlanc, the editor, and Grand Pupa of Commercial Integrator, as well as Chuck Wilson from NSCA. Chuck and Tom do the webinar every year. It's based on a survey and other findings that Commercial Integrator and NSCA put together, and it's kind of a good roadmap for the year following. Yorktel will be part of that this year. Ron Gabbery, the CEO, so he's excited to participate in that. In addition, we've been posting some kind of year in review type of articles. We just put up our timeline of kind of the stories of the year, and just looking at it, to me, I noticed I knew it kind of as it was happening, but it's amazing the number of acquisitions and those consolidations that have happened in this industry over the past year, and looking at that has been pretty interesting. And we look back at those and several other stories as well. I just posted this afternoon an article that is a couple dozen industry leaders talking about some of the challenges that they feel like they'll be facing in 2016, and kind of how they'll be meeting those head on. And I know we'll have some more 2016 looks ahead and 2015 wrap-ups posting on our site coming up, as well as a handful of Star Wars stories that have gone up in the last couple of weeks, and a couple of holiday displays that are kind of fun to look at. I always like seeing what AV guys can do to storefronts and churches and other public spaces and things like that. So that's about it.
Speaking of actually both of those topics, if you've ever been to Disney World during the Christmas time, at the Hollywood Studios, which is their kind of movie set area park, they had every year a street scene, 2 or 3 streets together set up, and they would do these phenomenal light systems, right? All set to music. Every 15-20 minutes they would go off, and it would last for 5 or 10 minutes. Beautiful display. My family and I saw it 3 or 4 years ago now. Apparently this is the last year for that in Orlando, because they're putting something in called Star Wars World, exactly where those lights are. So if you're headed to Florida, you're headed to Orlando this year, you might want to stop by and see those lights for apparently the last time, at least the last time for a while. So yeah, I heard that the other day. So, all right, gentlemen, that is going to do it. That's going to do it for the year. Actually, next week we'll do a best of for Christmas, and the week after that, me and the gang will get together for a kind of a year in review, year in preview. That'll be pre-recorded for New Year's. So, this is our last live shot. So, thank you guys so much for joining me. Thanks so much for hanging out with us for the year. Hanan, thank you, sir. How can people get a hold of you in Prime View?
The best way to get a hold of me is either at the office at 212-730-4905, or obviously the email is great too, chanan@primeview.biz.
Okay.
But always LinkedIn is always a great way, and I really appreciate the opportunity. I didn't even know about that project, Inspire, actually. I'm actually really interested to get involved because it's a serious problem. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity and learning about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. MacCormack, how can people find you? Or Commercial Integrator? Yeah,
Twitter's probably the easiest way for me. It's at Craig MacCormack, and you can also look on commercialintegrator.com or our Twitter feed, which is ComIntegrator, 2 M's.
Integrator, all right. And Mr. Tucker, sir, how can people find you?
If it's social media, it's at Tucker2s, LinkedIn's, Twitter, the whole bit, and I write for Commercial Integrator, Tech Decisions Magazine, and a number of others, but find me there.
You're Tucker2s even on LinkedIn?
It will get me.
Okay, well, I'm LinkedIn to him.
I made a decision and I went full with it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still
Happy holidays. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yes, well, everybody have a safe one.
If you don't follow me, but go by the website, lots of folks have made some really, really great stuff there. George has posted some stuff there this week. Dawn Mead posted a Star Wars related, Women in AV related blog post this week. So yeah, check that out. We also had our second edition of our residential version of AVWeek. So we're starting a Resi version. We've done 2 so far. Second one was up, so check that out if you're in residential or what have you. So AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv, you can find this and a whole lot more. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for hanging out this year. This has been AV Week.